Welcome, everyone, to our Tuesday night chat. I'm Kelly Wilkins, your host from My Self-Reliance, and together we are here on the 31st of October. It's All Hallows Eve, and but there's no better place that I'd rather be than right here with you all and with Kelly. Welcome, Kelly.
Hello, how are we all?
So good to have you here. We actually got started last week. For those who missed last week's call, and recapping the events of the festival. And when we got to the part where we were talking about Sunday morning of the festival, all of the I guess health and wellness workshops that we had, I was very intrigued to talk to Kelly because I was actually doing a workshop at the time called Jigsaw. And for those that haven't come across my channel before or my website, I have a program called Jigsaw. It's the acronym for the 6 things we do in a power hour as a morning routine. And I'm going to be running that morning routine starting next week. We do we do a from 6:30 to 7:30 a power hour. So to help you get motivated and start into the day and have your day go right. So while I was doing that workshop, Kelly was doing her workshop on sound healing and biofield tuning. And so we got talking. So I invited Kelly to come back, to Kelly's, how you double trouble, to share with us more about what is biofield tuning. And I'm very excited about this because the more we talked about it, the more. So I was like, I'm not going to wait. We're going to have Kelly come back this week.
Yeah, it's such an amazing modality that so I'm a high school music teacher by trade, and I've had lots of piano students, run choirs, and I just kind of knew that sound did something to people. Like there was this, like if I have a great sing, like I used to say, like my molecules feel like they're dancing, and I was, so it was kind of like a really nice sort of. I still teach, but I do this as well, so I've managed to keep my 2 lives going, or 3 lives. I'm also a mother of 3 teenagers, so yeah. So my sister said to me, "Oh, this lady up in Warramoo, you've got to go and give this a go." And so I went up and had to try it, and I was just tripping out, and it was the most incredible experience. It was very cleansing, but I couldn't, figure out why. And I thought, well, why don't I start doing all the courses online? And you do it. I did it through America. I know that for a long time they've been also running it up in Queensland, but it's not that well known really, like here. So, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people here have tried sound baths with crystal bowls and all of that. And I have those, and I would sometimes do sound baths, or I incorporate it into a group tuning. But the tuning forks are just so specific in what they do. I think I said this last week, I walk away from any session with a client just like I have to pull my jaw back up again. They look different when they get up off the table. They look like they've reclaimed themselves, and I can talk a bit about how that happens. And they will just tell me, like within a week or two, they said, like, instead of me firing up at this situation, I dealt with it with such clarity, and I was so calm because they're not in this sort of hypervigilant state in the way that they were before. So the modality really started with Eileen Day McCusick. So she was doing a whole massage with lots of clients, and then she started using tuning forks the way chiropractors were using them. And she played around with different frequencies, but she hit a fork away from someone's body, and they were like, "Oh my God, what did you just do?" And their muscle kind of rippled, and she got kind of like, well, the fork also went really out of tune, and I'm not even near the body. And then she started experimenting, and just kind of coming to the realization that our electromagnetic body extends, so far away. And there's this term biofield that was coined in 1992 by scientists at the National Institute of Health and Office of Alternative Medicines, and they needed something to explain that other you know, the acupuncturists talk about chi, prana, life force, electromagnetic fields, the 0 point field. There's so much, you know, you can go anywhere in the world and there's some kind of name for it, you know, the aura. So that was the field that was the term that they kind of coined. So anyway, so she did this massively deep dive into quantum physics and was talking to anyone and everyone that she could, and she's spent, you know, she's still doing it, spent, you know, so much of her life now dedicating to, well, I know this works. And I think that's the theme with me for my self-reliance, is that we are the owners of our body. And like I've said before, I'm not a healer. I know what I do helps people heal. And I feel like it's like saying, you know, you will go and have a vitamin C tablet. You make a choice to put something in that you feel is right for you. You can identify that that's your decision to make. So if I feel like anyone steps into my space, I'm like that vitamin C tablet. You've made that choice to step into my space, and I'm just there to facilitate what you know needs to happen. I hope that makes sense. So
Yeah.
so there's two ways you can use the tuning forks. I've got a few here. So some of them are monsters. I think one's lost their feet. So we've got forks like these ones here. I don't know if you can see them particularly well, but they're all very specific. She spent a long time figuring out what fork to use and when. And I'm not sure of how many people, like, just give me a wave if you've heard of binaural beats. You might have seen it on YouTube. You can have those relaxing music and it says, you know, 528. Yeah, binaural beats. Yeah. So really what that means is that we have certain brainwave states. So when we're in a delta brainwave state, we're in that sleep, really, really deep. I think that would probably like be when you're in your REM sleep. And then we go into alpha. So I've suddenly got a mind blank on the next one, but that's when we're in a really, no, theta. And that would be like in our first 7 years. And I'll talk a bit about that when I'm combing in the biofield. But that's really like we're in a kind of a hypnotic state when we're very, very relaxed, but we're absorbing what's going on around us. So the tuning forks, you know, people who are doing really deep meditation will often go into that theta brainwave state. So, and that's around about 7 hertz. So the tuning forks, for lots of different reasons, they can act as a binaural beat. So binaural beat just means that when we put our headphones on, one ear is a different frequency to the other ear. And what it will do is split the difference. The brain is entrained to the difference between what's on one side and what's on the other. And often it will come down to something like 7 hertz. So if I take this one, which is, I think I've got the wrong ones, but there are 2 forks. Where are we?
I think if you hold it closer to your face, it'll be in focus.
I feel like someone's. All right, here we go. I think this is the one. I think something's fallen off. Anyway, let me just, these ones here. So these ones here, well, if I hit them like this, go in there. I've got blurred, but I'm putting them by either side. And what will happen is my whole system just will drop, and my brain entrains into the brainwave state of the Schumann resonance. And the Schumann resonance is the hum of the earth, the om. So it will resonate at 7.83 hertz. That's in its, you know, in its beautiful state. And that's where nature and circadian rhythms and everything will tune into that frequency, and that helps with navigation and knowing when to open and close and all that sort of stuff. So when we're in that theta brainwave state, we are much more clear in our thinking. Our whole nervous system starts to drop down. So in terms of like being self-reliant and using, you can actually use them as like medicine, really. Like you can tap them and you can pop them on the body and you can rub them up and down, and you can, you know, do. And I'm watching people in the bell tent. I passed them around. It was hilarious. It was just like I was talking to people and they would just be like there was this kind of, and the eyes were rolling back going, oh my God, you know, it was just amazing. So another way to really kind of wrap your head around it. Sorry if I'm talking too like fast, to slow me down, because there's so much great stuff in this. But if anyone's ever seen cymatics, and now cymatics, you might see, you can look them up on YouTube. I know TikTok's probably gone a bit crazy with it, but if you put a metal sheet down and you sprinkle sand over that sheet and you put a certain frequency, you connect it to that metal sheet, it will start making coherent geometric patterns. And there are examples of heart cells where they've put different frequencies and they've reorganized themselves into coherent geometric patterns, which we find all over the place in nature. So when we put the forks on our body is a self-organizing system. It will hear that frequency the same way that sand will hear the frequency and reorganize. So every organ has its own frequency, and when it's at its best, it will resonate at a particular. So the forks on the body can help with all the stuff that's internal to us. There's another fork that we rub up and down our arm. I've missed it, but and it's called the sonic slider. And so it'll help with the fascia. It helps with blood. It helps with nitric oxide in the blood. It will open up the nitric oxide and help pump it through. What else will it do? Some people have used it. They've, in the biofield community, people have a monthly challenge and they will actually run the forks up like all over their face, and you can see this change. Everything just kind of lifts up. For a lot of people, they'll have a huge weight loss. They'll get muscle tone they've never had before. So I'm not here to sell it. I don't get any money for it, but I'm just talking about, these are some of the really cool side effects of the tuning forks. So
do you have to train how to use it?
Yeah, you do. Look, if you bought your own, like you can go onto Amazon, and like I said, I have no connection with money coming. I get no commission from letting you know about these forks, but they are specifically made for biofield tuners. So you can buy them on Amazon. They won't last particularly long. There are some other websites. I think it's Soundwaves. I think they're meant to be quite good as well. So there are probably other places to get them. To put them on the body, no. You don't need to be trained in that. They provide videos on how to apply and how to use. So there's support there for you. Pardon me.
So you can't do it wrong.
On your body, no. They do give a list of cautions and guidance. So for instance, if you are at end of life, if you are going through cancer treatment, like I said, I think I said last week, no one's going to do a study on a pregnant woman using them. There are pregnant women who will use them and they'll feel fantastic and lots of great things, but no one's going to really study whether it's beneficial or not, because particularly if you go to a practitioner, I'll talk about what it's like to go to a practitioner in a moment, but you can have a detox in the same way that you might have a detox from reflexology, from kinesiology, from hypnotherapy, whatever. Even going to the physiotherapist, if they're pushing certain points, you can have a detox from so many different things. So same thing with biofield tuning. You can have an emotional detox, you can have a physical detox, because the body is reorganizing itself. So that's the best thing about you can buy them, you can use them on your body. There are things to guide you, but you don't need to have the training to do so. To do a biofield tuning session the way I would do with the client, yes, you need to be trained quite a bit. There's quite a lot that they will talk you through, because you can have people with big releases. You need to kind of really know what you're doing. You just can't, like I was practicing before I did the call. Oh, let's just see what's going on here. And it was crazy. But, really what I didn't realize was that you're really playing in someone's energetic field. And for me, it was curiosity, but really it should have been a little bit more respectful than what I was originally, a few years. Oh, this is great. Look at this and look at that. Yeah, so as I go on, I'm like, yeah, there's a level of care that you need to give people after they leave a session. So yeah, does that all make sense so far?
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of the so you're starting to say people use it on their face, maybe like anti-aging?
Yeah, because it gets into the muscles and the fascia and helps, helps with the skin cell regeneration. Like there's no claims that this is the magic wand. It's just people have been using them and they've realized and they've noticed that there's been a significant change, in their face, even around their neck, around their arms, and they're standing straighter and they're feeling better from them. So,
Mm.
and they like I said, some of the forks are tuned to the of the earth. Some of them are tuned to the way bees will navigate, rainbows form. So 528 hertz. And they're just wherever you will find those kind of patterns in nature and those sounds in nature, that's what these forks have been tuned to.
Helena asked, is it safe for kids?
Oh, it's beautiful. They love them. So how do you know which forks? Sorry, I'm just going to try and.
Yeah, to buy. How do you know which forks to buy?
Yeah, really good question. So you can go onto the website and they will have a bit of a description. Some of the nice ones to start off with what's called a sonic slider, which I seem to have left in the right up a different end of my house, but it will be like a fork like this, but it will have an extra long handle and you can buy an attachment. This one here, you can buy a boot to go with it. So you can have a look around and play around with them. My big advice, if you're going to buy forks, have a look around, see what they do, watch some of the videos, but I would say buddy up with somebody. The thing that sorry, Barry, I'll answer that in a second. They are really expensive with shipping.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, buy up big or buy up with a friend and split the shipping cost. That's the thing that I find particularly difficult. I've been talking to them in America to see if we can try and do something about that. See if, I don't know, if I was trying to get a discount code for people for last weekend. But that wasn't going to happen. They just can't do that at the moment. So no, and Barry, it's not the solfeggio frequencies, but there are some from the solfeggio frequencies. So that solfeggio frequency is like a very specific set of frequencies that come in a series. So she's picked a couple of those ones from that series.
Are they all perfect like that point something of a hertz, or are they all even hertz?
No, they're all different hertz.
Yeah, but they've got fractions. They're not like solfeggio has 528 and 432,
Yep.
and they're all multiples of three.
Yes. Yes. So these ones so there's a pair on the Fibonacci, so the 11th and 12th harmonic or the Fibonacci series.
Yep.
And those two ones were created by binaural beat of phi, those who like maths and know what the golden ratio is. I won't go too much if that's not going to it's going to like make people go but and the other ones will be within the harmonic series of the Schumann resonance. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And does the app that you get on your phone, does that compare? It wouldn't compare to proper tuned forks, would it?
I use it to go to sleep sometimes at night, but it's like seeing live music and recorded music. Yeah. And the interesting point about that, when I get on to talking about coming and having a biofield tuning session, the interesting thing is you can do it remotely. So I can actually, I mean, I was tuning somebody in Canada a couple of years ago. We were both doing the training and we were trying to do swaps. And I literally sat on Zoom with her and I had her holographically lying on the table and I was finding things. And it was like, I could find things out about her parents' past. I could find information that was, laid down in her biofield. And I was asking questions. She's like, oh my God, yes, yes, yes. And then she was tuning me and she'd never been to Australia before. She knew only a few things about the animals. She said, what's a wombat? You pick, so you're picking up information. Has anyone come up, listen to Dr. Stephen Greer, the guy who loves to talk about ET contact and things like that? No, I won't go down that rabbit hole with you all. But anyway, he said that once you start watching him, you can't not know who he is. But that there are instruments that can measure the ether. So ether is, you got solids, liquids, gas, plasma, ether. So it's that state of matter that's not often talked about. Or the 0-point field. If you're looking at some of those other people like Dr. Joe Dispenza will often refer to it as the 0-point field. So that's when now we're getting into talking about what the biofield is. So I'll see if I can share a picture just to give you a bit of an idea. I'll try this one. Let's see if it actually works. All right, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Beautiful. I'll just get rid of this so I can see properly. Okay, so when we're in really good state of flow and harmony and we're feeling light, we have an energetic field point that comes up from our negative terminal. So around our feet, we say it's our negative terminal. We're literally a battery, and that's why we need to connect. We've talked about you probably had people talk about earthing before, so we know we get our bare feet on the ground. It's why people like astronauts can't survive up in space for too long, because they need to have their magnetic get to the core of the earth. So that's our magnetic field that connects us to the core of the earth. And this is our positive terminal up here, which connects to, the sun. So that makes us electromagnetic beings. And we have a flow of energy that comes up through the center and flows around. And then we have another one that comes down through we call it the central channel, and it flows in the opposite direction. And so if we turn it this way, it's like, if you cut an apple in half and you get this kind of shape, that's pretty much what we are as well. And this extends 6 feet away from our body. So when people come along, and the Earth star often gets tucked right up. We call this the Earth star. It'll get tucked right up between the ankles when we get stressed, and first job we really do is to pull it down. So I'll get the 174 hertz fork. That's kind of like the workhorse that detects things. So I'm pulling, and I can literally strike the fork, and I will feel where that Earth star is, and it's about the size of my fist is right now, and it's electric, and I can feel it, and I'm pulling it down below the feet. And then we'll do the same thing on the top. We'll feel there's the sun star up here, and it's pulled right down. And when we're stressed, and we're pulling it back up, so we're pulling that terminal out, so we've got a much steadier flow. So that's the first thing that we will do. There's not really many people, like once you've picked it up and you've had a go, you cannot not feel it. Like the air, for me, the air changes. For other biofield practitioners, they will hear it go out of tune. And the forks are there to self-organize. So remember I was talking to you before about the self-organization of our bodies. When it's out of tune, if we keep striking the fork, we might change forks, but we'll try and get it so that it actually is not out of tune or doesn't feel distorted or doesn't feel. I was trying to explain to a few people before. Imagine you're combing hair, and you keep hitting a knot and you keep hitting a snag. Then you will change to a brush, and then you'll change to something else, but you're teasing it down so you can actually pull a comb or a brush through your hair with a nice steady flow. And that's exactly what it feels like when we're doing a biofield tuning. You will feel when it's a really nice steady flow. The next stage will be to determine whereabouts there are blockages. So really let's go a little bit deeper than this. Within ourselves, we have biophotons. So at the Self-Reliance Festival, I think I'll show you what I gave people. I gave people this. We called him Bob. And we drew a positive and negative terminal, and we put little dots all over Bob. And I said, look, this is these are biophotons, and biophotons are quanta of coherent light that sit within inside of us. When we have a great big emotion, those biophotons can leach out of us, and it's measurable. And there's, some people like the data, they like the science, some people don't care, but literally these will leak out of us. So if you think about meeting somebody and you think, gosh, they just look shiny, they look happy, they look light, it's because they really are exactly that. They are light. And then you might see someone and they've had a huge shock, and you might, without even knowing you're thinking it, but think, gosh, they've lost their light, they look so dull. And that's literally what's happened. That leakage of light has, now I'm going to move Bob around, that leakage of light has literally left the body. So this is a really good image of what's happening. And see these parts here, this is where the distortions are. And that's what the forks are doing, is finding where those distortions are, retuning them, and we bring them back into the body.
So when you're doing this as in a session,
yeah,
I imagine, do you ask the client questions, and or are they just
out of it?
Yeah, quietly feeling the process. What?
Oh, I kind of leave it to people to figure out how they want to go. So what's happening on the outside here, just kind of clarify or help with that and answer that question. Around the outside, it's like the rings of a tree, and we can mark them to ages. So the double line on the outside is conception. So we get information about what was going on at the time with what was happening with your parents. They're carrying stress, that gets put through your waters. We know water stores so much information. We've got so much water within us. And then if I'm usually the first few years are just, there's a lot going on. That's that theta brainwave state, but we're finding out all this information, and that's what we find. The teenage years, we find there's so much going on in the teenage years, but people will sometimes just lay there and they will go off into their own la la land. And sometimes I'll say, look, I'm around about the age of, so this client here, let's imagine I'm at the age of about 8, and I can't seem to get the forks to move through. And it might be just a memory retrieval. And some people go, oh my God, that's when this happened. I forgot about that. And I'm like, well, you're not the same person when we look back at our events. We never look back at things in the past the way they actually happened, because we're not the same people viewing it. We view it through a different lens. But I will say that's, if it's Bob, I said that's the Bob of 8 years, and that's the event that's been recorded in the biofield or in the ether or the Akashic record or the 0 point field, whatever that, because everything all around us is just information stored everywhere. So sometimes it's just people just need to have a memory retrieved, and then suddenly it's like, oh gosh, the forks will just move light beautifully right through. And it's like witnessing the event. This happened, we witnessed it, let's move on. And then we bring that back to cohesion, and we bring it back into the body. And that's when we're literally pulling the light back in that you've lost. And that's why people feel whole and calmer and just amazing afterwards. So yeah, that's I think there's one really great thing that Eileen wrote. She said, anything that has an electric current running through it has a magnetic field around it. And the changing magnetic field can cause electric charges to move. And a vibrating tuning fork produces electricity and therefore magnetism. In biofield tuning, our tuning forks act like a magnetic stylus to move charge within the magnetic field of the body, shifting the way electricity is moving through the body. So pain can be the experience of too much electric current through the wires. By adjusting the magnetic field, we adjust the flow of electricity in the body. So I know that's a lot to take in. Like you can imagine, I might stop sharing now. So if you've got think about maybe in science, you might have seen, we might have put a magnet down, North Pole, South Pole, and you might have put iron filings, and you might have noticed that the iron filings will form this kind of shape around the magnet. So you might cast your mind back to your science lessons or all the things. But if you put, I think about if you put like an interrupter, let's say you put a magnet in there, you're going to change that course and that flow of energy. So it's going to go out into a different kind of pattern. So the tuning forks are like detecting where those interruptions have also happened and bringing it back so that you do get that nice steady flow of energy.
That interruptions is like some trauma that's happened in your life.
100%. Really good for people with PTSD, because you don't I might say you need retrieve memory, but it's not talk therapy. You can just lie there. The forks will do the work regardless of whether you believe it's going to work or not. And there's no need to actually necessarily revisit the event.
Wow.
Yeah.
Powerful.
So it's incredibly powerful. When we were training, the people training us, one woman said her husband was a Marine and has suffered so much trauma, and he was over in all the things that were happening overseas, and she just said it has helped him enormously just by lying there.
Physically and emotionally, or
Yep.
Yeah.
Psychologically. Yep. So so it's
so Kel, do you spend a lot of your time doing these kind of sessions, or do you book yourself? I'm like, everyone hearing this is like, right, I'm booking in with Kelly, I want to get the session. How does it work?
You can send me an email, or I can provide my phone number. More than happy to do that. I love that question. Can you use these on animals? We're like in the Facebook page for the Biofield tuners around the world, the amount of people that post their cats, their donkeys. We've had people tuning their donkeys. And you just see the cats go insane for it. They just like people with their dogs who've gone to see the vet, and because I'll put them on the body of the animals as well. It's been quite amazing, all the pictures that have been posted. I go out to my garden and I ding it and I sprinkle it over my garden, or I sing to them or whatever. There's this beautiful little one that someone was talking about, the solfeggio frequency. So that's the 528. So I've got about 8 or 9 forks, but that's the 528, and I'll go around and I'll strike the fork. I don't know if you can actually hear it through. The other thing you must get, if you do buy them, is a Canadian hockey puck, because apparently that's the best thing.
Yeah, it doesn't come through Zoom very well.
No, all right. So that, but anyway,
a tiny bit we can hear.
A tiny bit, yeah. It is hard to get. You need really good microphones to try and get them to ding. But yeah, I will tune clients at my house, or I've got a crystal shop in Penrith that has a healing room that I work in, or there's a yoga studio I work in. So I try and navigate around my family. And so there's a few different spaces. So I usually tune I finish on Thursday afternoons. I shut the door on year 9 and 10 music, and then I hit Biofield tuning until Sunday afternoon. So yeah, I can't take more than 3 a day, because it's energetically, for me, it's incredibly it's uplifting, but it's energy work, so it's very draining, because the session can go from anything from an hour to an hour and a half by the time someone leaves. But for me, I have to do a lot of process to try and, because I will feel it. I will actually literally burst into tears sometimes while I hit a pocket, and I just go, look, it's okay, it's not mine. I've just got to flush that through for you. Sometimes I will find joy, like I'll just beam and I'm like, oh my God. And I'll say, this is where I'm at. there's just joy here, and they'll go, oh my God, this happened. And there's this most beautiful story that comes out of it. So it's like emotion is frequency.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
it's like you walk into a room. I mean, we've all got this experience. You can walk into a room and you can feel the room without even knowing what's happened. You could go, oh my God, this is tense in here. And you won't even have to see a face. You will feel it. Or someone comes up to you, you don't even have to see what's going on. You can go, oh God, what's going on? Or this is you walk into a concert and you can feel this pulsing energy. And that's literally what you're feeling, is vibration from other people.
It's really powerful. I was with somebody yesterday and talking about her health, and I could see that there was layers of life, that trauma that's, been passed down through generations. And on one level, and it was coming out in her skin. And I couldn't hold back but tell her, I can give you this skincare, or you can go and see my friend Kelly and get some Biofield Tuning. And really, that was energetically, it was coming to me as like, I need to tell you about this. She may not take that on, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so true, because a lot of what we do too is looking at ancestral information. We probably all heard that our mothers had the eggs for us while they were in utero of their mother. So we're passing down stories through DNA, through vibration, through the waters. There's coding coming down through to us. So often you will probably feel an emotion sometimes, or have a thought, and you go, that's not me. I don't think like that. Why am I having that thought? And that can be information that's been passed down. So quite often within the sessions, we'll, as you get further, you get deeper and deeper into the sessions, and we'll hit parts and we'll go, that's an ancestral trauma. And there's this sort of, once we hit that, it's just sort of this relief and this awareness that I've been carrying this that didn't belong to me. We've all come from, generations with grandparents, or not that far down the line, who've hit world wars.
Have you seen results with it, with like some generational anger management?
Yes. I can't say how, who, or when, but as you're saying it, I'm going, yes, that's definitely, there will be stories coming out. My mother this, my mother's mother was like that. Yeah, and there's been a lot of like trying to resolve or to come to terms with the stories that have been passed down through those generations too.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, it's forever blowing me away. Even after I've done many, many sessions now, and there's still, this, and people will be coming back. Some people come back, they kind of realize, like, when you need a haircut, or you book in a month before you would normally do that, because you go, oh, well, it just freshens it up, and I'm not going to get that scraggly look, or whatever that happens to be. But people come in for maintenance once they get to a certain point. And I will say, after one session, we kind of bring you back to factory settings. If you went to the dentist and they cleaned your teeth and they did an awesome job, and you come away feeling amazing, and you go, look at this, I've got great teeth. And then you go and eat sugar, and you never clean your teeth, and you don't, have a bottle of Coke every day, and your teeth start to rot, and you go, well, that dentist didn't do a very good job, did they? So, you have to, you really have to do the work, but we get you to a point, it gets you to a point where you feel like you can do the work, or you have that space and ability for self-care, or self-awareness, or any of those other lovely selves.
I love it because it works on so many levels. You can explain it scientifically, you can explain it mathematically, but you can also explain it spiritually.
100%. Absolutely. If you were talking to a shaman, they would call it soul retrieval. That's another language that it would come down to as well. We actually refer to the chakras. So we determine where we're going to work. So you use the language of the chakras and the energy that's embedded into that as well. So, we talk about not feeling like you're secure. It could be sexual trauma as well, things like that, which will be in there. Grief, feelings of not ever being heard, like speaking and not being heard, or speaking and being ignored, or those sorts of things. Those sort of energies will end up impacting our internal systems too.
Now, you said that in 1992, was it, that they coined the term biofield, but it's not a new practice, is it? Or is it? Has it been around much longer than that?
Are you talking about biofield tuning, or are you talking about just the term biofield?
Well, the practice of using tuning forks to heal.
I think this particular modality, so there's lots of different sound healing modalities, and this particular one was Eileen McCusick's
her
modality that she studied and worked it's a Chinese modality. It's not a Chinese modality, but sorry, I'm trying to answer and look at the questions. They're great questions. It's not a Chinese, but she did go and study Indian Ayurvedic medicine, philosophy, as well as going into her quantum physics. So the biofield tuning is her branding.
Wow.
Yeah, but she's like, well, this is happening, and that's when she learned what the biofield was, and then she realized what her tuning forks were really doing. And she just spent like that whole time going, well, we know it works. People are saying, I love it. They don't want to know the science. They just know what you're doing is working really well. But she's like, well, I want to know now. I know it's working. Let me go and do
It's exciting for you as a music teacher too, to be able to take your music to the next level.
Yeah. And I thought, silly me, I thought, oh, this will be great. I'm a music teacher. I know how to listen to things and I know what's out of tune. But for me, it wasn't even about what I'm hearing. It's about what I'm feeling. It's about like when you hold the fork, you'll feel the air's just, it's like you've hit, you're trying to go through milk and you've hit a clot of cream. It actually literally, the air will literally change around the fork. And sometimes they will pull me in certain directions. I guess maybe that's like dowsing, people who use the rods to dowse. Yeah, it's similar. And I guess also it's similar to kinesiology too, because we are using kind of that a similar language. Someone had a question here. So I've thrown a lot at you guys because it's, this is like years of study, and I'm trying to like package it up in a very succinct way. I hope somehow after this, you've got at least like one little piece of information. Where can we learn to study and how to use the forks? Yeah, absolutely. So jump onto the Biofield Tuning website. That's all it is just Biofield Tuning. And there are links there to learn how to become a practitioner. So you will start with the foundations course. I did mine online. I was up at 2:00 in the morning doing the intensive course. It was like 8 hours over quite a long series of weekends, and then you do all the practice beyond that. So you can look it up, go and look for how to become a practitioner, and you can start that practice yourself. Yeah.
Kelly, what's it cost to become a practitioner, and then what's it cost to do a session with you? Okay,
so to become a practitioner, I know they've upped the price since I last. Oh, I'm going to answer Gail. I'll answer that in a moment. What was your question, Kelly? Oh, the cost.
Yeah.
I think US dollars, it's about, to do the first foundations, it's probably now about 2,000 roughly. I can't remember. I know they put it up. When I did it was about $1,600 US dollars. Now our conversion rate is horrible, so it will bump that price up. And then the practitioner, you have to go through all of that, do a whole clock in a lot of hours, and then you go to do the practitioner's course and then clock in a whole lot of hours there. And then they have advanced courses.
And then what's the cost to come and have a session?
A session with me is I've lost I've lost my pricing. One session's $130, and I do a package for 3 sessions. We often recommend 3 sessions. I always leave it up to people. You've got to be, you've got to know what's right for you. I wouldn't push it on anyone, but 3 sessions is, and we do other things in the sessions. We work on the back, we work on the adrenals. We do, like, there's lots of other things that we do. So that package, I think, oh God, I think it was 400, but don't quote me. I think I've miss. It's on the flyer I gave
Something
you.
around there. Yeah.
Oh my
we
God,
won't
can't
quote you.
believe it. I went blank.
That's
Wasn't
got it.
expecting that question.
Now, Gail's, what did she ask?
Gail asked me, what would you ask, Gail?
Where'd it go?
Is it Tuning Fork Therapies Australia? I've been looking at the website while you've been chatting. Yeah. So I know someone who's from Queensland, aren't they? So there is a lady, her name's Tony, and she was doing Tuning Fork Therapies. I think that's who you might be talking about, but it used to be called Biofield Tuning Australia. So she was the only person in the world outside of America who was allowed to train. It was the only place just after lockdown where you could do it in person. I chose to do it online from America, but she got sick, and as far as I know, she's closed down all of her biofield tuning. So she was the only place you could go and do a live session up at the Gold Coast. But I don't know if she will go back and do it again. It was really easy doing it online. I found it very accessible. I love the idea of going up and doing it in Queensland, but I'm living in Penrith. It wasn't conducive to my life to be able to go up there and then find accommodation and do it. But yeah, it was exciting to know that she was able to do it up there. And they go a step further. Her son's still doing it, and they go into the Chinese vessels and all of that other really exciting stuff. They will kind of move off into other branches of it.
It's fascinating. There was a presentation at the same time as Kelly that does Rife. Do you?
Yes, right.
Craig and Nina.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what Rife is though. Do you?
It's based on what the guy, wasn't it? Barry, is that right?
Craig and Nina were doing
Royal
it.
Raymond Rife
Yes.
discovered that every molecule has a resonant frequency and does healing through frequencies the same way. It's not. I don't think. I'm not sure if it's bio-oral, but it's still frequency healing. There's also Healy that does frequency healing too. But I think the Rife machine that Craig and Nina have has a whole lot more frequencies than the Healy.
Yeah. And there's just such amazing stuff out there, like the awareness. And I think I also follow Colruyt Chowdhury. She's a neurologist who went back to India to study city medicine. So she's really an Ayurvedic specialist. Some of you might have heard of Amma, who does, the Indian lady who does all the hugging. Anyway, she's gone back to all this ancient stuff, but yeah, she's talking about all these machines now that they're starting to be able to treat people with frequency instead of drugs. And things like Parkinson's disease, they've had some really great success with that. So I think it's very ancient, but I think it's our future as well.
Yeah, 100%.
We all know sound how it makes us feel. We've been, I don't know, we all went to discos or whatever it was in the 70s and 80s, and we know how we felt when that music was pumping. We knew how jubilant we. So I think this is stuff that we all know intuitively.
Apparently, during the Nazi regime, or was it Rockefellers, one of the two, had our music retuned from 432 to 440, which is not a harmonious frequency.
No, absolutely. And yeah, and it's when you do listen, sometimes you can go onto YouTube and you can watch 2 songs, the same song being played at 432 hertz, another one at 440 hertz. Yeah, that's right.
How does that work? How can they change that and we don't know? Does it sound the same? How do they change it?
I think it became like in the early 1900s, became a standard tuning for orchestras.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory. I don't know. Like, it's just out there that it's not nature's tuning, 432 hertz. So like we tune A, the note A, you go to the piano and play the note A, it's tuned to 440. But if you're using, I think it's Pythagorean tuning. So I can't speak anymore. It's 9 o'clock. If you're using Pythagorean tuning, A will sit at 432 hertz. And that's where lots of things in nature are resonant within that, for like lots of different frequencies that occur in nature. But and when you see things like the spiral on the pine cones, on pineapples, on our scalp, and then they're all like that nice perfect spiral. They're all resonating at things like 432.
And that's sacred geometry.
Yes.
Fibonacci.
Yeah.
So it just we'll finish off with, you talked about last week how you do choirs. You can tell us about that.
So at the moment, I mostly work with my students at school. I started Secret Men's Business for about 10 years. I just dragged all the boys from year 7 to 12 in, dragged the male teachers in. So we had maths teachers and English teachers, and so that went for about 10 years. And then the girls got jealous and asked me to create a group for them. So we call them Ladies of Vocal Excellence, their love. But it's just fantastic, and it's about mentorship, and it's about community, and it's about walking in and not, for me, this is one of the reasons I did it for the boys. It didn't matter what kind of car your dad drove or who you play with. I had football players coming on in to sing. It didn't matter where you sat on the playground outside. It was about coming together and having something that was the glue and singing. And I had kids with, that low playground status coming in. They could sing, and suddenly their status, and they found a tribe of people, and they found each other. They found something in each other with singing. So it's for me, it's just one of the greatest connectors that we have, is to sing together.
And then when you were working, you're talking about working with groups in a instant choir.
Yeah, so I used to run gospel choirs, and there were people from 17 to 70. I had plumbers, I had lawyers, I had garbage collectors, whatever. Like, it just had the most eclectic mix of people coming in, and usually within about half an hour. I mean, it's like people make a table, they know the skills. It's nothing like wow. It's just like I just knew the skills to be able to walk in and get people singing in 4-part harmony within half an hour. It's just you just know the tricks, and I could teach them to you, and you go, oh yeah, I can do that too. But it's a beautiful thing. I used to run the gospel choirs for adults. I did that for quite a few years.
Helena wants to know about buying the tuning forks. Is there a brand or type that we should look out for?
Yeah. Okay. So these ones are the ones I have, the ones from the Biofield Tuning website. Eileen had specifically made for her. So these are a special alloy. Cannot remember what the exact alloy is, but they will last a really long time. So she was experimenting with some cheap ones, and there's some imitations now starting to come out. And you can buy them, but they won't last very long, although they just won't have that same tuning. So,
and her name was Eileen, was it?
Eileen Day McCusick.
How do you spell McCusick?
MCCUSICK.
Beautiful. Eileen McCusick. Okay. And then and we've just Gail posted biofieldtuningstore.com, and there's a course going on
excellent.
on the Gold Coast for
and is that
training.
That must be up and running again. Is that an actual?
Oh, that date is the 2022.
Yes, I think that was the last lot of classes they ran up there. They closed off their connection with Biofield Tuning in America. I looked at that too. Was looking at those courses ages ago as well.
What a shame.
Yeah. My dream is to become a teacher of it, like be actually like have the thumbs up to. I've asked them, like we need some more teachers around the world who said to help with time zones, and
that'd be great, Kelly. What a legacy.
it'd be awesome. There are quite a few. There's a few more popping up in New South Wales, which is awesome. Western Australia's got a few biofield tuners. I think there's a lot more in Queensland because they were running it up there.
And if you did that, would you, what do you see in your future more? Do you see more teaching of school or teaching of biofield tuning?
I'm gradually phasing out of school.
Okay. So this could be your future.
Yeah, it would be lovely because I mean I've hit a certain age where I love school. It's an amazing place. I make working in the most beautiful environment, but yeah, I'm ready to start building up the biofield tuning in a way that's sustainable and keeps me loving it the whole time. I think that was the lady who was the neurologist. No, she's not in Australia. She was American, and she's gone back to India because she was her parents were from India. Her name's Dr. Kulreet. I'll write it in. She's just amazing. Oops. Chowdhury. It's her name. I'm trying to remember what the name of the book I just read of hers. But she also, and this is the other thing I just love as well, talking about self-reliance, but she's also very much about the mantra. So the sound that we have inside, and when we chant inside, we have just as much power as if we're chanting outside. And she'll use the mantras that have been passed down for like 10,000 years. So they're incredibly powerful as well. So that's another way of using sound to help, and that's another whole 3 hours.
It's great questions, everyone, and I can see everyone on this call is here because they're really keen to learn more and to get amongst it. So it's so great. What's the barrier for you to be able to become the teacher in Australia?
I think they have to work out how it's going to look. You're welcome, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle, for jumping on.
Very grateful to have you here. Thank you. Yeah, I think they've got to kind of work it out. They're like, yes, we like the idea of that. I feel like, I think what the way they've explained it is that this became much bigger than they ever expected it to become. It's like they said, the ship's sailing and we haven't quite finished building the boat yet. So they're literally trying to catch up to just the amount of interest and the way it's just taken off. So and when it went into lockdown, they created all the online courses, and it just gets better and better, and it's at a really beautiful point now. But they said, after I spoke about my self-reliance festival to them, I've been back and forth with them, and they were very, very excited about the fact that you were happy to have me present. That was a big win for them.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow.
One day. Yeah.
So they must hold the rights to it then, and so it's permissions really.
Yeah. So it's all her intellectual property.
All
her research, everything. So that's why, whenever I talk about it, I really do pay homage to that, to Eileen, because she has pioneered this whole thing, and you will always find her running courses, and you can find she does a lot of recordings as well, so you can listen to recordings of her doing tunings, and it'll address various things. So
Well,
you
maybe
don't.
it might help you, Kel, if you introduce me to her, we can have her on as a guest speaker sometime, and she can see, you know, how really Australia is captivated and would love to you to take this on. Maybe that might be a bit of
I'll
fun.
let them know.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, she's quite remarkable.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope you all learned something. Sorry, I know it's Tuesday night. And I don't take information in particularly well. Like I have a shutdown button by 7 o'clock. So I think that this many people stayed on has done you've done very well.
Well, we appreciate everyone being on, and my little ones have just come home from getting lollies from the neighbors, but that's on one of those things I don't really buy into, but there you go. So really appreciate everyone being here tonight. Now stay tuned, because and thank you so much, Kelly. We've really loved having you on and learning all about that. That was absolute joy for me. And my first interview with another Kelly. So how cool. So stay, if you want to come back next week, we have interview with Michael, who is an accountant with an awake accountant who has all the inside information about finances, and we're going to dive into what we really need to know about navigating finances in these next few years, which is all a bit of a tricky area. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll get this recording up as soon as we can, because I know a lot of people will be hanging out to see it. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks again for being at the festival. We really love it. For those who missed the festival, we are having 18th to the 20th of October 2024, our festival back at Kenthurst, because that was such a brilliant location. And I'm also going to meet the owners tomorrow to talk about an expo in May next year. So stay tuned for that. So we actually are on this same channel at the same time every week. You just use exactly the same. There's a question that came in the chat. The same link. So that's how you join next week. So thanks everyone for being here. And can't wait to see you then.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a
Kelly.
great
Kelly.
week.
Bye-bye.
And they go up and down. What they do is move